So if you see me around, feel free to come up. You can ask me any questions. I'll see if I can help you. If not, I can direct you to who can. So this is ETH New York. After a long blockchain week, I'm sure you guys have been to so many of the other events. We had some incredible things going on in the ecosystem. We had Ethereum, Consensus, Token Summit, Fluidity, Rare AF, DAOify, meetups, cocktails, dappy hours, so much stuff, right? And to round it all out, the most important thing we're going to be doing this weekend is what really matters. Biddling, right? Come on. This is exciting. This is big stuff. I want to do a quick thank you to New Lab. That's the space we're in right now. This is practically the most beautiful co-working space I have ever seen in my life. I would be impressed if any of you have seen nicer. So please give a round of applause for them for hosting us this weekend, because the space is absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. It is perfect for this kind of event. So let's talk a little bit about ETH New York. Let me put this down here. ETH New York is an event by ETHGlobal. ETHGlobal is an organization that runs events like this worldwide with the goal of onboarding new users to the Ethereum ecosystem, to the Web3 ecosystem. And the things that makes this special, we have some core values that really guide us in that. And that is build what you want, right? So we're not telling you this weekend what to build, how to build, where to build. This is all about you, your inspiration, your ideas, your motivations, right? So you get to build whatever you want here this weekend. We value showing over telling. That means while presentations are great, show us the code, show us your app, show us it not working if it doesn't work, right? It doesn't have to, but we want to see what you've done, what you've been building, right? That's what's really important. Learn, mentor, and grow. Right, so this goes out to the fact that not all of us are in the same place in our developer journey. Some of us are more advanced than others. Some of us are newcomers. So what we're really looking for this weekend is for those of us who are more advanced to help the newer people in the ecosystem to learn. Hopefully we can all grow, mentor one another. Also, as a hackathon, this is not a conference. We will be having talks, of course, but the core thing that we're doing here this weekend is we're building. So please enjoy, but build, build, build. Additionally, something that really guides us in the end is these events are for the ecosystem at large. You know, there's that saying, a rising tide raises all ships. Or actually, they say boats, I think. But, you know, a rising tide raises all boats. And the whole idea here is that what we do here helps the entire ecosystem. So we're not just building for ourselves here, we're building to try and improve the entire ecosystem that we all work in. Something that makes this really special this year is that this is one of our most experienced field of developers ever, right? So what that means is we have 500 plus total attendees, 32% self-identifies as advanced developers. Nearly 50% are intermediate developers, and we have 15% beginner and 6% who are new to Ethereum. So we're really going to be looking forward to those of you out here who already have extensive experience in the space to really help out those who are new to the space, right? Give a lending hand, help mentor, give advice, take on newcomers. We hope at the end of this weekend, everyone gets a chance to build a dApp, ship some product, show us something new. Something else that is also really special about this is that we have attendees here in New York from all corners of the world. So this may be ETH New York, but we have 66% USA, 11% Europe, we have Canada, Latin America, Africa, Asia, Australia, all the continents listed. USA and Canada are not continents, but everybody's here anyway. And of course, please give a big, big props to New York City. 26% of us from right here, Big Apple, New York City. So we're really, really, really excited about that. So I want to give you a thank you right now to our sponsors, to our attendees, to our hackers, to our judges, our mentors, To everyone here that's making this possible, to New Lab again, this is going to be a fantastic experience for everyone, and it's really critical that everyone here has been putting in so much of their work and the hard work. So we are expecting amazing things this weekend from everyone. So give us one more round of applause for all the people here in the room, everyone here participating. This is really going to be exciting. Coming up, just a few things. We're going to have a talk by Vitalik Buterin, co-founder of Ethereum, on a recent post he talked about on collusion. Then we'll have our sponsors give a few words. And after that, I'll be back up here to give you some more information about the logistics for this weekend. So with that, please give a round of applause and welcome to the stage, Vitalik.
Thank you. Oh, cool, it's my face. Yeah, so today I'll be talking about collusion. So to get right into things, there's been a lot of interest recently in things like decentralized governance, DAOs. You see Moloch DAO here, Gitcoin grants, the ETH Trader Donut thing, some Chinese platforms doing experiments and tokens for content curation and rewarding content. And there's like a lot of these different projects that are just appearing everywhere in the ecosystem, right? And on the one hand, this makes me really happy to see this kind of experimentation happening, because the use of this mechanism design and experimenting with incentives and new kinds of institutions is one of the big things that I've been excited about people using Ethereum for since day one. And it's great that things are finally happening. Yay Moloch DAO, yay Gitcoin grants, yay all of these things. So, good. Now, on the other hand, there's a lot of challenges involved in doing these kinds of things. And recently, over the last year, we've seen some of the pitfalls kind of come into action, right? So on the left, we have a situation that happened on the EOS blockchain about a year ago. So basically there was this scandal where they had discovered that a bunch of the EOS block producers were basically agreeing to vote for each other and paying each other to vote for each other, and there was this kind of cartel of these fairly well-connected block producers that were like basically supporting each other and kind of cementing their control over the ecosystem. And on the right side, we have one of the recent Aragon votes, and I believe this was the vote where they were voting whether or not to basically forbid themselves from supporting Polkadot. And the basically what happened here is that, well, no won, but the great majority of no was just one guy. So bribes and plutocracy are probably two of the big issues that you can see with decentralized governance systems. And with online content incentivization systems, you see a lot of the same effects. And I'll talk a bit about why it's kind of, unfortunately, quite challenging to create systems that avoid both of these fairly nasty consequences. So here is a simplified summary of something that a lot of people try to do, right? So a lot of people try to say, oh, I am going to create a decentralized platform for incentivizing content creation, right? So I'm going to come up with some kind of source of income, and this source of income could be just advertising, could be just pumping an ICO token, could be whatever. And that coming up with a reasonable and actually sustainable source of revenue is a separate problem. And then they want to take that revenue and basically come up with a mechanism to distribute it to people who create good content, right? So this could be articles, it could be code, it could be documentation, like pretty much anything. Now, what kind of mechanism are you going to use to actually kind of figure out which content creators should be rewarded how much, right? So this is a common scheme that often gets implemented. So basically, you have users, and users have coins, And every user during every period, and we'll think about the concept of a period abstractly, like it could be 1 second, it could be a block, it could be a week, it's could be anything, right? So during each period, every user has the ability to make one upvote, or it could be that they have the ability to make many upvotes. The math works the same way. If a user has n coins during some period, then whoever they give the upvote to gets a reward of n times k, right? So basically you have the ability to tip people, but there's a limit to how many you tip, or possibly if you make many tips, then your kind of allocation gets split between all of them. And if you tip someone, then it doesn't cost anything to you, but it gives them some money, right? So it's just voting on how much money the recipient should get. And it's simple for every vote. If you vote with n coins, they get n times k for some constant k. So here is a challenge with many of these systems. Well, basically any system that works in this way as written. The optimal thing for a user to do is to just make a post and send the money to yourself. And that's it, right? So it's optimal to send the reward to yourself. And if you are willing to send the reward to someone else instead of sending it to yourself, then you're basically giving that other person the reward that you would have gotten. So if you're willing to do that, then why wouldn't you have been willing to just donate the money to the guy, even in the absence of the mechanism? So if it's optimal to send money to yourself, everyone sends money to themselves, the system just collapses into this equilibrium where everyone has an interest rate of k per period, and that's basically it, right? And the system just becomes useless. So everyone following so far? Yeah. Who's not following? Okay, yay, congrats on raising your hands, no thank you. No, like it's good. Like it's good. People should raise their hands more. Don't be sulky. So here's one way to patch this problem, right? So we have this mechanism where you can vote on just pieces of content that other people create, and if they get votes, then they get a reward. So instead of making the reward just a linear function, just be proportional to the number of coins held by people that vote for you, we're going to make it be a superlinear function, right? So what that means is that, let's say, for example, if $100 of token holders vote for you, you might get 1 cent. If $200 of token holders vote for you, instead of getting 2 cents, you might get 3 cents. If $1,000 worth of token holders vote for you, you might get 50 cents, right? So the number goes up, but the amount that you get per dollar goes up the more dollars you have. Now, you might want to ask, well, why do people do this, right? So the idea basically is that this subsidizes voting for posts that are popular more than it subsidizes voting for yourself, right? So if you have $1,000 of tokens and you have a choice, one choice is that you just make a post and vote for yourself. You're the only person voting for your post, and let's say you would get 10 cents. But then the other option that you have is you vote for some other post that you think is actually good. If you think it's actually good, then many other people probably also think it's actually good, so there's probably many other people donating to it. And so if the function is superlinear, then that means that the amount, if more people already donated, the extra amount that you would add to the amount the poster gets with every dollar that you vote is going to be higher, right? So if you vote for yourself, it might go up from 0 cents to 10 cents. If you vote for some other post that's actually good, it might go up from 80 cents to 95 cents, or $2 to $2.20, right? So there's a benefit to voting for things that other people vote for. So this is interesting, and you can kind of see how it improves on the status quo, right? Basically, your choices are give 10 cents to yourself or give 20 or 30 cents to some other post. And so instead of it just being kind of donating, you're sort of donating at a 3-to-1 ratio, right? At 3-to-1 leverage. So you can see how this tries to improve things. Here's the problem with this approach. First of all, it subsidizes plutocracy, right? So what this means is that wealthy cartels, so people that have lots and lots of money, raise your hand if you're part of a wealthy cartel. Okay, good. So as a proud member of a wealthy cartel, you can gang up with your other friendly wealthy cartel members, and you can just throw a bunch of money on just a fake post that doesn't do anything, but you'll have so much money that you have basically as much money that you throw on the post as like tens of thousands of people legitimately voting for a post ordinarily would. And so basically you give yourselves money at the same 3-to-1 ratio, right? So if, for a normal person, if they vote for themselves, they would get more money back at a ratio of, say, like 0.01% per period, you might get 0.03% per period. So you, as a proud member of the plutocratic class, get a higher interest rate than everyone else. Yay! Now, so this is one problem, right? So wealthy cartels get the full benefits of voting for themselves, everyone else doesn't. The second problem is it can still get circumvented by bribes, right? So basically, if you make a post, then what you can do is you can bribe other people, and you can tell them, if you vote with $1,000 of coins for my post, then I am going to give you 15 cents. Now, if they had just voted for themselves, they would have just given themselves 10 cents. So your bribe is a better deal for them, right? They vote for themselves, they get 10 cents. They vote for whatever you tell them to, they get 15 cents. So they'll do that. And then you get a lot of people voting for you, and so for every one of these $1,000 that vote for you, you might get a total of 30 cents. So you get 30 cents times whatever number of people you bribe, pay 15 cents back to them, and you get 15 cents pure profit. Yay, bribing. Are bribing attacks realistic, right? Actually, let's take a poll. Let's say there was some carbon vote happening on some hard fork, and someone offered you a bribe, and they would basically say, if you stake Ether on supporting this hard fork, I don't know, let's say it's like issuance reduction or something, then if they for every 1,000 ETH that you vote, they would give you a bribe of 1 ETH. How many people would take the offer? Some people would. See? What if it's an issuance increase? How many people would? Okay. See, still a few, right? So it seems like you can kind of see why some people think that bribing attacks are not especially realistic, because people think that they're kind of good citizens that are not going to be susceptible to them, right? Now, the problem is that, well, it doesn't have to be advertised as a bribing attack. What you say is, oh, here is a staking pool, and if you stake in my staking pool with your 1,000 Ether, then I will give you 1 Ether. So who here will join a staking pool? There we go, see? Yay. So, and this is basically what people did, right? So this is a thing that happened in Lisk a couple of years ago. Every member of the Lisk elite, except the China delegate for some reason, must share 25% of his or her forging Lisk to the voters every week. So every member of elite must vote for other members. You see where this is going, right? So these things definitely exist, and they definitely, like, systems can very easily collapse into these kinds of equilibria, and it's often pretty difficult to prevent it. Now, can we try to mitigate plutocracy with identity systems, right? So one question you might ask is, well, if we go back to the mechanism where you get, if you donate or if you vote on some post, then that post gets more money the more for your vote, the more other people already vote for it. So we go back to that mechanism, right, and we try to get this benefit that if you vote for something that's actually good, then lots of other people vote on it, so you get this kind of higher leverage, and we try to make it actually work. And we try to make it work in a way that's not plutocratic, by having an identity system, right? By attempting to kind of detect who unique humans are, and instead of the formula being based on the total number of coins, we make it be based on the total number of humans. Now, if you take this mathematically to its logical conclusion, then you basically get quadratic funding, aka liberal radicalism, and aka CLR, which is what Gitcoin is doing already, right? So it's a very reasonable path. Identity systems are difficult. So on the left here we have a guy who basically has a whole bunch of phones on a rack, and all of the phones are constantly getting charged, and all of the phones just have software running that just keeps on pretending to click and kind of automatically participating in various applications. So you can do this stuff, right? You can try to just kind of gather up a whole bunch of identities in some way, and you can just run the software on a bunch of machines, and you can just kind of pretend to be a community yourself, right? So you can try to find some way to gather up a few thousand identities, then you start voting for the same posts, and if you have enough people voting for them, then you get access to the same kind of plutocratic benefits that you were able to get before when we were talking about systems that were just based on money. Now on the right, we have this wonderful website, buyaccs.com, that's B-U-Y-A-C-C-S, where you can just go and buy Google accounts, and you can go and buy Twitter accounts, and you can go buy Reddit accounts, and it's great. So now I checked, and GitHub accounts do not seem to be available on buyaccs.com so far, so Gitcoin grants is safe, for now. There's definitely people selling Gitcoin grants on the dark markets, right? So, or sorry, selling GitHub accounts on the dark markets. Like, there are very specialized and highly professionalized channels for these things to happen. And people are doing it, right? There's just people that bought up thousands of accounts, and there's people that are just pretty much make it their job to sell fake crowd engagement. Like, how else do you think the the shitcoin people have more Twitter followers than we do? It's so weirder approaches, right? So let's say we're not happy with GitHub accounts or Reddit accounts because they can get easily attacked. Well, there's been a bunch of like really interesting and crazy work that's happened fairly recently about trying to verify identities in a way that's more kind of local and decentralized, right? So on the left, there's this concept of pseudonym parties, which is basically this standardized way for people to get together in person and attest to each other's status as a real human being TM. And they would just go meet up together in one place, have these parties, like sign each other's keys, and you could broadcast these messages to a blockchain, and you can, through kind of this real-world community that would be seeded from some kind of set of trusted identities, figure out a list of people that corresponds to kind of real people in a way that seems to be fairly difficult to exploit. So this is one interesting approach that people have been thinking about. Another interesting approach that I've been seeing people doing recently is making token curated registries. So you can just apply to be classified as a real human, and token holders vote on how human you are, and either you're human or you're in the list, or you're not, or they don't vote for you, and then you're declared to be a bot. So there's experimentation happening around this. If you haven't come up with ideas for hackathon projects, then trying to come up with some kind of medium secure way of just coming up with lists of kind of probably unique human accounts is definitely an interesting project that I would recommend thinking about. Because if you create a list that even has medium security, where like, the cost of an individual getting multiple accounts is like at least significantly harder than the cost of going to this website and getting a bunch of Twitter accounts, then that's something that would be really valuable for things like Gitcoin CLR, things like these content incentivization tools, and all of these other things that people are trying to do. So that's one thing that you can do. And like you can combine together decentralized approaches, you can try to do centralized approaches, things like, you know, government ID verification, phone number verification, or whatever. And the goal is to basically, like, we're never going to get anything that's perfect, but we want to try to kind of push our way up the security level to the point where these identities are strong enough that you can do some interesting things without your application just completely being taken over by attackers the moment they decide they want to attack it. So this is one thing that we could work on, right? So that's about the identity issues. Now, why is avoiding bribe and plutocracy attacks, and really bribe attacks specifically, so difficult, right? So it seems like for a lot of these applications, like especially things that have to do with public goods, things like governance, things like incentivizing internet content, like all of these things, it just seems so hard to create mechanisms that can avoid bribe attacks when it seems relatively not that difficult to create mechanisms even for things like blockchain consensus, right? Like creating safe and secure mechanisms for incentivizing public goods seems to be an order of magnitude harder than creating proof-of-stake mechanisms. Now, why, right? Like, what's so weird and difficult that's happening over here? So, cooperative game theory is hard, right? So, now, people talk a lot about economics making unrealistic assumptions, and often, like, people talk about things like perfect information and perfect rationality and how certain kinds of mechanisms break down if those things aren't perfectly met. But there is one way in which, one big assumption that economics and game theory often make about the world, which is actually like even more horribly broken and false that people just seem to still continue to take seriously. And that assumption is basically non-coordination. It's that the world is split up into discrete agents, each of which are exclusively thinking about their own incentives. Now, you might think, right, that, well, that's just a worst case scenario. If people can cooperate, then isn't that good? Like, that will give you even better outcomes than you get if people were selfish. It turns out, though, that even though kind of everyone in the world perfectly coordinating with each other would be great, partial coordination, situations where some groups of people can coordinate better than others, and you have these mechanisms that people can coordinate to exploit mechanisms, actually gives you worse results than if, at least sometimes, than if communication between people was completely impossible. And this is definitely this weird counterintuitive thing, but the math basically says it, right? So there's this branch of cooperative game theory that has to do with taking seriously the possibility that subgroups, like groups within the group of participants, are allowed to communicate and coordinate and advance their own interests together. So in standard game theory, where you have a bunch of agents and every agent makes decisions separately, every game has an equilibrium, and it's possible to engineer games that have equilibria that target a very wide variety of outcomes, right? So there's things like second price auctions, generalized Vickery-Clark-Groves auctions, there's mechanisms for incentivizing contribution to public goods, all of these things, blah, 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 and if you look at the math and if you take all of the assumptions, then they work well. In cooperative game theory, so in this version of game theory where groups of people are allowed to collude and advance their interests together, it turns out that much more instability is the norm. Right, so on the bottom right, I have this example, which is this majority game that basically says, if you can get together a majority, then you can grab the entire reward and you can distribute it among yourselves like as you want, right? So you can think of this as being a kind of very crude representation of, say, many kinds of political processes. So at the beginning, we'll start with a fair division. We have 3 players, and each one of them gets a division of 1/3. So you have 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. In the next round, A and B get together and they're going to say, hey, how about we exclude C, and then we're going to go up from 1/3 to 1/2. So they do that, and then in round 2, they both have 1/2. This outcome is better for A and B, so A and B cooperate to make it happen, and C is left with nothing. Now in round 3, A gets even more greedy, and A goes to C and says, hey, have you been feeling oppressed lately? Well, how about you join an even newer cartel with me? I'm gonna get 2/3, and you are gonna get 1/3, which is still better than 0, and we'll cooperate to make this happen. A and C are 2 people, and they get together, they make this happen. A has 2/3, C has 1/3, B is left with nothing. In round 4, B comes along and says, hey C, how about, you know how A's cooperating with you? Well, I can also help you feel not oppressed. And unlike that nasty evil A, I'm not going to take 2/3, I only want 1/3. So your reward goes up. So how about you cooperate with me instead? So now B gets 1/3, C gets 2/3, and A is left with nothing. Does anyone here want to guess what round 5 is going to look like? Hint, it involves A feeling oppressed. So basically, like, in these game theoretic environments where cooperation and kind of partial coordination are possible, like, you do get more instability, right? And this fact kind of manifests itself in many ways. So collusion in public goods funding, right? So let's suppose that there's some public good. So this public good could be even just writing technical documentation, writing some piece of software. It could be cleaning up the environment. It could be anything. Now, suppose that there is a community of 10,000 people, and suppose that we'll kind of make a mathematical model where for every $1 that gets spent on the public good, each one of these 10,000 people would get a benefit that they value at $1/1,000. So $10 of total benefit, right? Now, who here thinks that it's better for everyone if this public good gets funded? Okay, so still need to explain better, right? So who here is ideologically opposed to public goods? Okay. So there basically, right, you have these, like, let's suppose that each of these 10,000 people puts in $1, right? So each of these 10,000 people is going to put in $1. So there's a total of $10,000 that gets spent, right? So each of these 10,000 people would benefit 0.001 per $1. So we're going to multiply 0.001 by 10,000. And so each of these 10,000 people get $10 of total benefit where they each spend $1, right? So who here thinks that this is a good deal? Okay, yay. So here's the problem, right? In reality, like, we don't have a list of public goods that get handed down to us from the gods of Satoshi that we know we have to fund, right? We don't even know what the public goods are often. So let's say there's something that's X, and we don't know, is it a real public good or is it a fake thing pretending to be a public good? So suppose that we have a game, an economic mechanism, and you could think of this as being like markets voting, like anything in this category, where each individual can influence how much money gets put toward X. And individuals have the ability to make 2 signals. One of their signals causes X to get $1 more, and the other signal causes X to not get $1 more, right? So we can say that let's say the cost of making a signal that causes the spending to go up by 1, it needs to, clearly, if there is a cost, right? It could be costless, so it could just be a voting mechanism. But if there is a cost, the cost can't be more than 0.001 because 0.001 is the amount that each individual gets from $1 more being spent on the public good. Right? So if, for example, the game that we're talking about is just giving individuals the ability to donate money, then the cost of giving X $1 to an individual is $1, so nobody's going to do it. But if we have one of these games that we talked about, things like incentivizing content, then maybe we can set one up so that the expected cost is 0.0001, and then people would do it. But then here's the problem, right? If we have this kind of game, then a fake public good producer, someone who's producing something that's not a real public good, could just bribe people $0.002 to support them. right? So basically, in order for these mechanisms that determine whether or not a public good gets funded or how much to work, there needs to be, people need to have the ability to kind of contribute at really high leverage. But if you give people the ability to contribute at really high leverage, then someone can bribe them. People following so far? Great. So plutocracy is also really hard to build or to beat, right? So let's say you do not have identities. So all you care about is money and how much money people have. Then a wealthy individual with 10,000 accounts, or with just a lot of money so think of him as a lot of money split up between 10,000 accounts, could submit a fake public good, and this fake public good would just give money to themselves. They would pay whatever the fee is to kind of signal that this thing is a public good. And if it's less than 0.001 per unit, so less than $10 in total, they could just give themselves $10,000, right? So in any situation where a legitimate public good would get funded, in any situation where the leverage is kind of high enough to overcome people's selfishness, if the thing is actually legitimately a public good that serves a distributed community, then a single wealthy individual can just pretend to be an entire community and exploit the thing to hell. Are people following so far? Okay, so basically if a system is secure against either bribing or plutocracy, then it seems like the system just can't fund genuine public goods, and if it can fund genuine public goods, then the same kind of leverage that allows it to actually fund public goods also allows it to be horribly exploited. So this is hard, right? So, two ways to resolve this. One of them is collusion-resistant games, and there is even though making games that are collusion-resistant is harder than making games that are not collusion-resistant, it is still possible, right? Even Ethereum's proof of stake is a fairly collusion-resistant game. Like, there's no way for people to kind of collude together to just give themselves more money, right? And it's also a game that just listens to how many coins you have. It doesn't try to kind of measure identities. So prediction markets are collusion resistant, security deposits are collusion resistant, shelling games, so things like Augur, things like these decentralized oracles are collusion resistant up to the 50% level. So there definitely are some mechanisms where they do not require any notion of identities, they can be purely coin-based, and where they don't run into the same collusion issues because they don't kind of operate in the same way, right? So here's an example governance mechanism. So this is like a sort of feutarchy light way of building a DAO that I haven't seen tried yet, but the idea is basically to take a voting system and just augment it with a little bit of a prediction market so that you try to make it more secure against bribes. So here's how it works. So if you have decisions, for every decision you can vote in favor of the decision, you can vote against the decision. If you vote with N coins in favor of a decision, that vote also has to come with an offer backed by collateral, ETH, blah, 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 to buy N more coins at a price equal to 99% of the price of the DAO token at the start of the vote if the coin wins, right? So basically, if you vote for a decision and that decision wins, and the price falls, you're responsible for bailing everyone else out. And if a terrible vote wins, and if someone tries really hard to bribe to make a terrible vote win, then the winners are basically required to buy everyone else out, right? So the idea here basically is that the reason why this is not vulnerable to bribe attacks is that if you try to bribe someone to vote for something that's really bad for the DAO, then they're not just responsible for kind of the tiny impacts that they have on the decision themselves. They're responsible for like basically their share of this big drop in price of the DAO token that the decision would cause, and whatever that price is, whatever that price decrease is, the people that voted for it have to cover it. So you can do things like this, right? I mean, you can also do security deposit mechanisms. So for example, if you want to have a DAO for verifying humans, then one mechanism you could have is one that says, So first of all, for a new human to be added to a list of known verified humans, some number of existing members in this who have been verified have to vote for them. And there exists a challenge mechanism, right? So there exists some game where you can claim this account actually isn't a human, or that these two accounts are actually the same human. And you can resolve them with an Augur Oracle, you can resolve them with Kleros, which I think doesn't get enough love, a decentralized court mechanism with kind of multiple layers of voting. You can just like probably plug into Kleros for this. And the voting isn't a kind of just dumb vote and forget about it, right? If you voted for a human that gets rejected, you personally get penalized. And so if someone tries to bribe you to vote for them, instead of just having to bribe you a really tiny amount, they have to bribe you pretty much to cover the entire penalty that you would pay. So much more secure in this way, right? So that's one path to try to solve these issues, right? Basically, you rely on prediction markets, you rely on security deposits, and you try to make it so that voting for bad things actually is costly for you personally. So this is one strategy. Sometimes, though, you can't do this, right? If we're talking about rewarding online content creation, then there's no way in which, like, if you vote for a post and it turns out that post is bad, like, there's no feedback mechanism with which the facts that that post is bad, like, really can get detected by the system and used to penalize you. So here's another approach. Add collusion resistance. So basically, we can try to prevent bribing by coming up with infrastructure that allows these mechanisms to be run in such a way that you cannot prove how you participated even if you want to, right? So it's not just making it anonymous, it's not just making it hidden by default, it's that even if you wanted to prove how you participated, you can't. So this is actually even harder than doing ZK snarks, right? And I actually made a post, feel free to kind of photo this to remember the link, on kind of minimal anti-collusion infrastructure. If people want ideas for a hackathon project, also highly recommend trying to just go and implement this. Basically, the core idea here is that there is some operator, and the operator could be centralized, it could be a decentralized multi-party computation thing, and the operator is trusted for the collusion resistance property, but not for any of the other properties, right? So if the operator is compromised, then you can bribe people, but you still have the guarantee that the vote has to proceed correctly, nobody can cheat in any other way. Basically, the idea is that users broadcast their actions to the blockchain, and they broadcast their actions encrypted with the operator's public key and signed with their key. Now, users also have the ability to send messages that change their key. And this is really important because if you have the ability to change the key that your future votes get verified against, then if you look at any single vote, you can't actually prove whether or not that vote is valid, right? Because you could have changed the key before. So with this mechanism, like basically users lose the ability to prove how they participated, but then the operator does a ZK snark and publishes the outcome at the end with a proof, and so the operator still proves that the operator gave the answer that actually is the correct answer of applying all of these votes, right? So it's secure against operator maliciousness, and the operator proves that the calculation is correct, but individual participants don't have the ability to prove how they participated, and so if you try to bribe them, well, they could take your money and then just vote the way they were going to vote anyway. So this is the other way to try to solve these kinds of problems, right? So use cases for this: regular voting, quadratic voting, Gitcoin CLRs, content curation, content incentivization, all of these things that people want to make decentralized things for. So, thank you and enjoy.
Awesome, thank you. So if anyone wants to go out there and build a DAO, get a plutocracy going, raise some money for public funds. Something I didn't do before, I wanted to just do really quickly. At ETHNewYork, hashtag ETHNewYork. If you guys see anything cool happening, going on, please post. Social media is the lifeblood of everything now. So that's really important. Our sponsors play an important part in the role of making these kinds of events happen. Without their support, the quality of the events would not be the way it is. All their help, mentorship, and excitement just adds to the experience. So I would like to give a big shout out to New Lab. And we have a special guest.
Hey guys, I'm Sean. I'm the CEO here at New Lab. I actually just wanted to say hi, welcome you to our house. Thanks for being here. And given this is your home for the weekend, I thought you'd give a little bit of insight into where you are and how the hell it got here. So you're on 300 acres of Navy land. It was opened in 1803. And at the peak of World War II, 70,000 people worked here in the Navy Yard. They actually had trams throughout Brooklyn that brought people directly here and directly home after they worked. It dropped down, obviously, to about 10,000 people that work here today. But at the height of World War II, we were building some of the most important ships to the Navy here and actually in this building itself. And so the building you're in, 85,000 square feet, 4 floors, 95-foot ceilings. It built the USS Missouri, the USS Arizona came out of here, which is at the bottom of Pearl Harbor now, I think. But was actually the prototyping facility and the machine house for the Navy. And so a lot of the steel work you see here is original from back then, and a lot of the equipment they used. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the ETHGlobal team for making this happen. Thank you to the Wireline team for kind of facilitating and translating from time to time. And Foam is a member here, and they're part of the programming here over the weekend as well. But we just wanted to welcome you to our house. Thank you for being here, and we're just thrilled that we're part of this all weekend. I'll be around with a small dog. You'll see me from time to time. If you got any questions, grab me or grab anyone with a New Lab hoodie, and we can help make sure the weekend goes well. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have a number of other sponsors who are going to come up. First, I'd like to call up Sean from New. I already have Sean. So instead, I'm going to call up Tux from NewCipher.
Hey everybody. Some of you may have heard of us already, NewCipher. Some of you may not, but to give you a quick rundown of some things that are happening, I think I only have this one slide. Yeah, okay, great, cool. So we have $5,000 in a bounty pool for hackers. So in case you don't know what NewCipher is we're a cryptography company. We build cryptography tools and protocols for decentralized applications and various other applications you may want to build. Our main product offering is what we call our proxy re-encryption network. Just to give you a quick overview of that, proxy re-encryption allows us to transform ciphertext encrypted under one public key to be decryptable under another private key. So Alice can transform ciphertext from her key to Bob's key without ever having somebody decrypt it in the middle. We have a decentralized network for that. One of our other product offerings is called NewFHE. It is currently the fastest and most efficient implementation of fully homomorphic encryption in the world. That you can go find out more information on the link there. Also, we have our Discord. So if you're hacking on our application, please join our Discord. Please ask us questions. Please break our stuff so we can help you figure out how to build it. Please, build on our stuff. We'd love to see it. Also, I just want to touch on some stuff that the NewCipher team really cares about, and this is, privacy and security and things like that. So for privacy, we believe that everybody has the right to have private communications, and that privacy is a human right. It's unconditional. So if these kinds of beliefs and ideology interest you, we are having a demo right across the hall right after this at 9. I don't know if you've seen our demos by that flute guy from our team, but we'll be playing some music. It'll be quite intimate. We're going to be having fun together, demoing our stuff, showing you how to keep your own DApp stuff secret and how to manage secrets in your own DApp so we can help you guys stay more secure and build even more decentralized privacy-based applications. So yeah, right across the hall, 9 p.m. See you there. Bye.
Great. Now we'll have Jack from Scale come up.
Which screen? Yeah, that one to go forward. Okay. All right. So hey, quick round of applause for Dennison. Woo. Okay. I'm with Scale. We are extremely committed to helping Ethereum scale. So we do that with elastic sidechains. The Scale network is comprised of elastic sidechains. So Scale plus Ethereum allows you to take your dApp and run at over 2,000 transactions per second in each sidechain, run full state smart contracts, run storage at sub-second block time. So excited for you to use it this weekend. Come check it out. Don't have too much time to go into this now, but please come by later if you want to learn about how the elasticity in the network works. But a mixture of smart contracts and containerization allows you to essentially run either small or large chains at high speed. So 1,000 nodes in the Scale network can run over 8,000 independent blockchains that can act as sidechains. All right, so we think there are a lot of important qualities in running layer 2 networks: speed, cost, security. One of the things, two things not so often talked about though are user experience, right? We don't want to have a drag on the end user because of the speed we're getting on the back end with the layer 2 solution. And also decentralization. Like, let's not throw decentralization away for the, the value of having some greater performance. So, okay, 2 quick announcements. First one, we're excited that we've set up our foundation and we are decentralizing ourselves. So, and we've open sourced the code, so go check it out on our GitHub. We're excited about that. And also we're launching storage today. So you can run storage in a sidechain with EVM on Scale. So launch today, you can use it at the hackathon. Come by and we'd love to show you how it works. So now let's talk about bounties. Okay, we've got 5 500 DAI awards, 1 1,000 DAI winner. We are just looking for amazing creative use cases where you're using smart contracts. So we're not too concerned about super high throughput, about doing crazy stuff with scaling, but do something cool. Let us know, we can help you. We've got a team that's here late and early, and we're just excited to help you hack. So, and come join our Discord. We'll set you up with a Scale chain. So, and come by the booth as well. We're doing a workshop at 9:30. Christine Perry, who's somewhere here, and Stan Kladko with Scale will be leading that. So thank you. Let's have fun.
Thank you. Next, we have Pete from Thundercore.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Pete Abilla with Thundercore. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We are an EVM compliant blockchain, EVM compatible blockchain. We've got 1,200 throughput transactions per second. We are provably, mathematically proven secure and all of that stuff. But here's the really cool thing that I want to share with you guys. Our co-founder was the founder of Playdome, which at one point had about 700,000 users per daily active users before he sold it to Disney. And so Thundercore is like almost purpose built for games. And so we want to see a bunch of games built on Thundercore today. So here's a couple of bounties that we have. Best stack combo. So create useful applications using Thundercore with other protocols that are sponsors today. And so best tooling, and the best game or dApp, and then privacy solution. And so please join our Discord. Go to the ETH New York website, and then our Discord is there. And we've got a couple of developers here that can answer all of your questions. And so looking forward to seeing what you guys can build. Thanks.
Great. Next, we have Mo from Seller.
Thank you, Denniston. Hi, everyone. I'm Mo from Seller. We are here to help you to build interactive, extremely low-cost and secure applications on top of Ethereum. We are a layer 2 scaling platform, currently mainly focusing on using the technology of generalized state channel. We have a tech talk later today, but the stuff we can build looks like this. oh, this should be like an interactive game. So this, you can actually build a very interactive game and instant zero-fee payment on top of Seller. If you have any use cases for that, it's probably a very good fit for you. And the interesting thing I want to share is that if you use Seller, you probably can achieve this kind of a user growth trajectory. This is like one application building on top of Seller, running on a paper money testnet, but you can achieve like 56 times growth in 5 months. So, and in 67 different countries. So for the bounty side, we are having two kind of bounties. One is called C Gamer. We're gonna reward $1,500 to the best game built using our SDK, and also a C Builder Award, which is gonna be $1,000 for whoever actually uses Seller. It's gonna be split at most to 2 teams who uses Seller SDK to build any kind of application. And if you're like tired of building and want to try to find some fun, we have some great activities happening at our booth. This is the King of Gomoko. You can actually try to use some applications that build already on top of the Seller, try some interactive games, and try to like win some great award. And also, the T-shirt like I'm wearing now, you can get them by downloading our app and just get them by paying 30 GT, which is like literally a double fake token. So, yeah. And in terms of event, we have 2 events. Tonight we have a workshop that is talking and teaching about our SDK in terms of the interactive gaming aspect, and also the instant payment aspect. And tomorrow at the afternoon, I'm going to talk about the lessons we learned when building and pushing out this extremely large-scale state channel networks. So thank you guys, and happy building.
Thank you. Now we have Lucas from Wireline. Big round of applause.
Hi everyone, it's good to be here. I'm recognizing a lot of faces from the crypto circuit, and it's kind of unusual to have my house keys in my pocket speaking on a crypto stage. So welcome to New York, everyone, and happy Blockchain Week. So Wireline, we've been working on this for a couple years. We've been in stealth, and that's about to change in the coming weeks. We're building the protocols and infrastructure for a privacy-preserving, censorship-resistant internet. We've been working on compute, identity, messaging, and payments infrastructure, and we'll be sharing some SDKs soon with everyone. But I guess the message that I'd like to share with everyone here, the builders, is that this year we're going to be part of a fairly important historical moment. We're actually going to be able to build applications without any central processing or data silos. And that's the first time we're going to be able to have done that in history. But the trouble is that there's this privacy paradox out there. People say that they want privacy, but they're not really willing to pay for it. People price it at about 1/100th of what they say it's worth. So we have an uphill battle, I think everyone here in this room, and we need to think about how we're actually going to get privacy-preserving applications in the hands of the mainstream. And I think we've got sort of 2 ways to think about attacking this problem, and I don't think they're necessarily going to be sufficient. So on one side of it, we need to do advocacy. So I think that's necessary, but not sufficient. You need to explain to your mom, and if any of you can explain to my mom what's going on on Facebook and the amount of surveillance that we have, that's going to be quite important. But the trouble with that approach is that we're going to end up with something like GDPR in Europe, where we have this legislation that's very hard to enforce, and it's actually going to benefit the hyperscale providers like Facebook and Google, because they're going to be able to comply with it, or rather play a cat and mouse game around it, and the startups and the small companies are going to have a hard time enforcing it. On the other side of the spectrum, the other strategy we have is to create more choices. For example, we need to create a privacy-preserving Google Docs and privacy-preserving social networks. But the trouble with that is that these markets aren't really rational markets. If you think about anything that's priced zero, and there's a lot of good research done by Dan Ariely, a behavioral economist. When things are priced at zero, we make very irrational decisions. We don't optimize for our welfare. So it's necessary, but not sufficient to build alternatives to the platforms that are out there. So the message I want to leave you with was what I think is sufficient, is that we need to design products and applications that actually leverage privacy to create some kind of utility, some kind of a profit that hasn't been done before. And we have some ideas around that, but so my message to you guys is, this is an open invitation. Come talk to me with your idea of how we couple privacy with commerce somehow, privacy with some utility. Wireline's a well-funded organization. We're investing in projects, and we'd like to invest in your idea around that. Thank you.
Do you have Yaniv from The Graph?
Thanks. So I just want to provide some motivation for today and this weekend. So we all have talents and potential, but not everyone can monetize their talents fully because the world is full of closed opportunities, senseless barriers that prevent us from contributing our best selves. For many people, the world is closed, and we are going to make it open. Imagine if anyone in the world could be recognized for the skills that they have and have access to global open markets where they could get paid with their worth on their own terms. This is the new economy, and this is what we need to build. The trick is we need to be focused on solving the right problems, and we have to have patience. Right? This stuff is going to take time. This, voting, governance, identity, reputation, the types of game theoretic problems that Vitalik was talking about, those are the building blocks, and with them, we will be able to rebuild the entire economy to be fair and open. So that's why we're doing what we're doing at The Graph. That's why we're building infrastructure for Web3. And we've got $5,000 in bounties for this weekend. I'm giving a workshop tonight at 11 p.m. and really excited to see what you all build.
So that's not all. We have a number of other sponsors that we want to give a shout out to. So we have $90,000+ in prizes from our sponsors. So we are extremely thankful to have them here, and you are too. You can check out the prizes there, ETHNewYork.com/prizes. So without our 33 sponsors, none of this would be possible. So I want to hear a big round of applause for NewCypher and Scale. For Thundercore, Seller, and The Graph. For Wire, 0x, AirSwap. For Consensus, Dapper, Off-Chain Labs, and Wireline. Chainlink, Matic, Mysterium Network, Binance Labs, Hiraku, Uma. You in the back. See those claps. Loopring, Fortmatic, Infura, Foam, Arweave, Kyber Network. Come on, this is impressive we have this many sponsors. How many hackathons have this many sponsors, right? ENS, Taurus, QuickNode, Aztec, 1KX, Kickback. I knew it. I knew Aztec. I love Aztec. Aztec. Everyone, round of applause. Nervos, Reciprocal Ventures, UNICEF, POOP, the Bounties Network. Woo! Come on. What's the Wi-Fi? This is what you really want, right? ETHGlobal Wi-Fi, password, just biddle it. You don't have to clap for that one, that's fine. Join the Discord for announcements and mentors. I think there's a mentoring station over here probably. So they're going to be around. You can pester them. ETHNewYork.com/chat. There's so much happening. We have 45 plus talks all night long. Not all night, but like pretty late. Food. There's an after party. Not right now because you have to be hacking. Schedule is on ETHNewYork.com. You can check that out. If you're brand new to Ethereum, tomorrow you can learn from scratch with Surge. Round of applause for Surge. Someone's going to give it up, right? It's tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you're worried about pitching, if you're worried about getting up here and talking to all of you, sign up tomorrow for a one-to-one pitching help. Message to follow in Discord. So get on that Discord if you want to know that. Again, respect the space. This is an amazing space. Please, we need to leave it in the same condition we found it in. If you see a non-hacker space, the non-hacker spaces are clearly marked. Some of these are people's private desks.